Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm. In this video, we are going to create a page that has some quotes on it. I've already built my page here. I've just done the HTML work. The style.css page is empty, other than, you know, the .wow class that is there by default. So I've already done the HTML work. We're going to do all the CSS work. Now, so what I want you to do before you move on with this video, what you're going to do is you're going to go build a page like this. You're going to have an H1 with the title of the page. You're going to have 5 different divs. And inside of those divs, you're going to have an H2 with the quote and a paragraph element attributing that quote to somebody specific, right? You're going to have 5 of those. So 5 different quotes on your page, right? Make sure that that's set up the right way. Make sure that you pick quotes that you like. My quotes are all Tony Stark quotes from the MCU, from Avengers and Iron Man and whatnot. So at this point, pause the video and go build your own quotes page. Do not build a page with the exact same quotes that I chose, right? Make your own quotes. Go find your own quotes. Do not use mine, okay? So go do that and then come back here to the video and follow along with styling this page in a way that makes sense. Okay, so now you're back. Now we're going to get into adding some style to this page. And what we're going to do is we're not actually going to make this look nice. We're going to give each of these quotes a different style using padding and border and margins and whatnot to see what options we have, to see which ones we like the most. But we're going to have 5 different styles, so one applied to each quote. All right. So to do that, I guess we need to just go ahead and start styling it. For me, I want to set the font family to sans serif. I don't like the serif font, so I'm going to just do that really quickly. Body font family sans serif. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. All right, so now that's been updated. I like that a lot better. That looks nicer to me. Alrighty, and then the next thing I'm going to do is let's apply some color to my text. Now, you don't have to do this. I would recommend doing it. You don't have to do it, but I want to style mine a little bit. So let's see. I'm going to make a color, and I found some really cool Iron Man colors. I have them over here on my notes. I'm just going to put in the hex values, 0908. So that's a good Iron Man color. I want to make all my H2s, I don't know, let's make them a nice yellow. FBCA 03, that's a nice yellow. Okay. I want to make my paragraph elements slightly different yellow. It'll look a little nicer. So B9 7D10. Now again, you guys aren't doing the same thing I'm doing. You're going to style your page with colors that apply more to your quotes that you're using, right? I'm doing Iron Man colors because my quotes are all Iron Man quotes. You are going to do something different, right? All right, and then I'm going to set all of my divs to have the same background color. You can have different background colors for your different divs just to try some stuff out, but I'm just going to use the same background color for all of my divs, and it's going to be 4B 0908, that same red from up there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and run this and see what this looks like so far. All right, so that's not too bad. That looks fine-ish. I've got my red text there. I've got my yellow, and okay, fine. Now the whole goal of the assignment. Now this is where the main part of the assignment comes in. Each one of these separate boxes is going to get a different width, padding, border, and margin so that we can see what possibilities are available to us using these options. So I'm going to go back to my HTML. And in order to make this super easy, I'm going to set a new class. I'm going to create a new class for each one of these. And so I'm just going to assign the class to each div right off the bat. So this class is going to be, we'll say Q1. This class will be Q2. Class will be Q3. This class can be Q4. And this class can be Q5. Now in our CSS, all we have to do is create these new classes and apply different width, padding, borders, and all that to them so that we can see what it looks like. All right, so let's do the first one. I'm going to create a class by typing a period. Remember, classes always start with a period, period Q1. And this class is going to have a width of, let's say, 500 pixels. So it's going to be a set pixel width. We'll give it a padding of 20 pixels. We'll say a border, let's do a 10 pixel border. Make it a solid border, and we're going to give it this yellow color here. I'm going to give mine a yellow color. Give yours a color that looks good for yours. And then I'm going to give it a, let's say a 20 pixel margin. All right. Now I'm going to hit run, and you're going to see this first div here change using these attributes that I've just assigned. So let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. There we go. Now we have this quote looks a whole lot different than it did before. We have some margin around the object so that there's a little bit of space between it and other pieces of content. We have a border, a 10 pixel solid border around the entire thing. We have some padding on the inside, meaning our content has some distance from the border. And we have a specific width of 500 pixels, and that's going to stay the same width no matter how big or small my screen gets. Okay, perfect. Let's try a different strategy. That's a pretty standard, pretty nice looking box. Let's create a different one. For Q2, let's try a width of let's say 80%. Now the difference between a pixel width and a percent width is that box is going to grow and shrink with my screen, because 80% of a screen that's 1400 pixels wide is going to be much different than 80% of a screen that's only 100 pixels wide, right? So if you use a percent value for your width, your boxes will grow and shrink with your screen. Makes it a little easier for mobile phone users as well. So whenever they're looking at your website on their cell phone, they can see it a little bit nicer if you use percentages. Let's do padding of 10 pixels. Let's do a border, but I only want a border on the left side here, and I want the rest of it to not have a border so that it kind of, you'll see what I'm looking for. So let's do border left. Let's give it a 10 pixel border. Solid, and we'll use that same yellow color. I'm just going to use the same border color for everyone. And I'm also going to use the same margin color or margin value, just because 20 pixels is a nice amount of margin around my objects. All right, let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. Ooh, that's really nice looking. Yeah, so look here. We have a 10 pixel border on this side here. And actually, I'm going to increase that to 20. Let's make it 20 pixels so we can see it a little bit more. Yeah, that stands out a little more. So we only have it on the left side, right? So it kind of makes it look more like a quote, like a pull quote or something like that. That looks pretty good. I like it. And because we use an 80% value, if I grow my screen, it'll grow that box with it. And if I shrink it, it'll shrink the box with the screen. So that's the difference between using an actual pixel width versus a percentage width. All right, let's make a fun dotted border for the next one. Now again, this is just me playing around. I want you to use a different style for each of these boxes. You don't have to copy the same style I'm doing. I'm just showing you an example of what I want to see from you. Again, yours is going to look very different from mine. You're going to be using different colors, different quotes. You're going to be trying different styles out. I'm just showing you kind of what's possible. We'll make this 300 pixels, make it a little bit smaller. Give it a padding of only 5 pixels. Let's give it a border, let's say a 5 pixel dotted border. And it's going to be that yellow again. And a margin of 20 pixels. Okay, so let's check out number 3. Well, there we go. We got a nice dotted border. That's pretty cool. Maybe a little bit more padding might be nice. And maybe instead of dotted, let's try dashed and see what that looks like. Dash looks pretty cool too. Let's add some more let's do 25 pixels for padding and see what that looks like. All right, that looks kind of good, right? I like a lot of padding on objects, especially if we're trying to draw emphasis onto the thing that we're looking at. It makes it look kind of nice. All right. Well, that was fun. Let's try something else. For this one, maybe I want to play around with max width. So let's try that. Let's do a max width. And we'll say, I don't know, 600 pixels. And let's do padding of 20 pixels. Let's do a double border. 20 pixels, double yellow, and give it a margin of 20 pixels. So let's see what Q4 looks like. Oh, that's cool. So the double border looks really nice. Now, the max width here, what this means is that it will only grow to be 600 pixels. So if we shrink it, it'll shrink down with my screen. But if we make it bigger, it will stop growing once it hits 600 pixels. That's a really nice way, again, to account for mobile phone users. But also keep it looking nice the way you want it to on a big screen, like on a big desktop. Like if we looked at this full screen, we can see that if this was stretched all the way across like this, it wouldn't look as great, right? So if we want it to only be 600 pixels max, then we would want to set that max width. So that's kind of nice. All right, and on the last one, ooh, you know what? We haven't played around with inset borders yet. I want to show you what these look like. If you haven't played with these when you were going through the lesson and kind of experimenting with the lesson, inset borders are really cool. So let's do that. I'm going to make this, let's say 50% of the screen. Actually, let's do 90% or 100%. I don't know. Well, I'll just show you whatever. I mean, again, with this assignment, we're really just playing around with these values to see what they do. Padding, 50 pixels. Give it a lot of padding so we can see what that looks like. Border, we'll give it a 10 pixel border. Inset, and we'll give it that yellow color again. And margin of 20 pixels. And again, I'm not changing the margin because the margin deals with how much space there is outside of the object. And I want to play around with the objects, with the content inside the objects. I'm not really wanting to make these spaced out in a bunch of different ways. I just think it looks nicer if I have a constant margin throughout. It makes the website feel a little more uniform, even though all of these are completely different styles. So let's see what that looks like. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so with this, maybe 100% is a little too much. Let's make it 50. Cool. So look at the inset border. It gives it this like 3D look, which is kind of cool. And again, it grows and shrinks with the page. It's exactly half the width of my page until it gets to the point where it can't shrink anymore and keep the content. I also have 50 pixels of padding in here, so that's going to mess with the content sizing as well. If you remember the box model in that lesson, the content, the width itself, so this width is only for the content on the page. It's not for all of it. Everything added together makes up the full width of that actual box. Anyway, so this is exactly what I'm looking for. I want you to turn in a page that has 5 different styles using margins, border, padding, and width, so that we can see those divs in different styles. Now you might find one that you go, oh man, that looks really cool. I want all of them to look that way. That's not what we're doing. Again, we're not trying to make this look nice. We're trying to experiment with these to see what we can do. So I want you to turn in one that has a page that has 5 different style schemes for your for each quote, or one different style scheme for all of your 5 quotes. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks for paying attention. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.